Hello and welcome to Eastern Roman history. Basil II and Constantine VIII succeeded their father, Romanus II, upon his death on the 15th of March AD 963. At the age of 5 and 2 respectively, and with their sister Anna having just been born, a Regency council was tasked with running the Eastern Roman Empire until the co-emperors were old enough to rule themselves. The council consisted of the Augusta Theophano, Joseph Bringas, the Grand Chamberlain of the Palace, and chief advisor to the deceased emperor, the Patriarch, and the high officials Symeon the Proto-Secretist, and Michael the Financial Logothete. In April 963, Nikephoros Phokas, Domestikos of the East, returned to Constantinople from his victorious expedition against the Hamdanid Emirate of Aleppo, where he and his second-in-command had sacked Aleppo and broken its power. It had been a shock to this bringer of victory to hear of the young emperor's death, and so he had returned to Constantinople to take stock of his position. Nikephoros was amazingly popular, with him being known as Nikephoros the Conqueror in the Roman sources, and later on, Luidprand of Cremona reported, "As Nikephoros, like some crawling monster, walked along, the singers began to cry in adulation, 'Behold, Nikephoros our prince, the pale death of the Saracens!'" The Domestikos was granted a triumph for his destruction of Aleppo, and was confirmed as Domestikos of the East. While the leading general of the day might be a threat, the Regency took steps to mitigate this danger by having Nikephoros sign a solemn oath not to rebel against Basil or Constantine. He was also promised the Regency would consult with him, essentially trying to bring him into the Regency Council. Our sources start to show their loyalties because disparaging arguments are made by both sides. John Skylitzes, our anti-Phokas source, says that Nikephoros immediately decided to revolt after Romanus II died. Leo the Deacon, our pro-Phokas source, says Bringas tried to stop Nikephoros celebrating his triumph, a decision which was politically dangerous and would be counterproductive if, ultimately, Bringas was trying to placate Nikephoros enough not to threaten the regency of Basil and Constantine. The theories of both sources are probably untrue. Nikephoros arrived in Caesarea on the 2nd of July 963, and was proclaimed emperor by his officers, led by his second-in-command, the strategos of Armeniacon, John Tzimiskes. Nikephoros then sent a letter announcing his elevation to the Regency Council, Patriarch, and Senate. Leo the Deacon paraphrases what Nikephoros wrote: "That they should accept him as emperor, and he would protect the sons of Lord Romanus until they reached maturity, and would oversee their physical training, and, moreover, he would greatly benefit the state, and expand the sway of Roman rule through his military exploits. If they did not wish this, they would subsequently regret their stupidity when matters should be determined by the sword and bloodshed, and that there is no opportunity for justification for those who have chosen the worse course over the better." Bringas naturally refused the usurper's manifesto, and started preparing for sword and bloodshed. Nikephoros left John as Domestikos of the East, and marched with his mighty army westwards, towards Constantinople. John Skylitzes says that Nikephoros, a pious ascetic, lusted after Theophano, and they sent each other secret messages, but there is no evidence this happened. And since Skylitzes' history is generally hostile towards Nikephoros, we should see this for what it is: propaganda designed to make both Nikephoros and the increasingly scandalized empress look bad. Bringas could not accept the terms of this upstart, and immediately started preparing Constantinople for an attack. Nikephoros the Conqueror was declared a public enemy by the eunuch Bringas. The octogenarian Bardas Phokas the Elder, the father of Nikephoros and Leo Phokas, sought sanctuary in St. Sophia in Constantinople. Leo Phokas disguised himself as a labourer and escaped the city through a sewage pipe before crossing the straits to join his brother. Bringas summoned the Macedonian thematic army, led by the Domestikos of the West, Marianus Argyros, to Constantinople. However, public opinion was with Nikephoros, whereas Bringas's own attempts at gathering popular support were unsuccessful. Bringas, although very competent, suffered from a total lack of charisma, a deficiency in oratory, and was heavy-handed in a crisis. During the night of the 8th of August, he sent some of Argyros's troops to arrest the aged Bardus Phokas at St. Sophia. A mob had gathered to protect the affable old man from the creatures of the Eunuch and clashed with them at the entrance. The following morning, Bringas himself went to speak to the Patriarch. He shouted at the crowd and threatened to besiege the church. He also ordered all of the bakers to stop baking bread. When word of this reached the mob the next day, the 10th of August, a riot broke out and the Domestikos Marianus Argyros was killed when a woman threw a pot from her balcony, which smashed over his head. Basil Lekapanos, the previous Parakoimemenos and Eunuch and nemesis of Joseph Bringas, sprung into action. He and 3,000 of his associates joined the rioters and started targeting the homes of Bringas's supporters, and also burned down the mansion of Bringas himself. Joseph Bringas fled to St. Sophia, begging for sanctuary. Bringas was beaten. On the 16th of August AD 963, Nikephoros Phokas arrived in Constantinople and was crowned co-emperor with Basil II and Constantine VIII. Keeping to his oath. The regency of Joseph Bringas had lasted 5 months. Joseph Bringas's life was spared, but he was exiled to a monastery in Bithynia until his death in 965. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. Thank you very much to my generous patrons. The next video shall cover the reign of Nikephoros II. This has been Eastern Roman History.